Hi guys, and welcome to another book review. For those of you who are new, my name is Christine, and I evidently put a lot of videos out. I'm realizing, but that's what happens when you do individual book reviews. The reason why I do individual book reviews is because, I like people doing the wrap-ups, I like seeing their thoughts on books, but if I'm looking for a review on a particular book, when you click on a video, you don't really know what they're reviewing, unless they put it in the description box, but then unless they timestamp it, yeah, so, then it's just hard to find. So, and a lot of the stuff that I review, I'm finding a lot of other people are not reviewing, so there's that too. Anyway, I have another book review. This one is for an audiobook that I listened to. This one is a nonfiction book, and I think if I were searching at a bookstore, it would be in the adult section. It's not, as far as I know, I don't think when I looked at it, it wasn't labeled as like adult or young adult. Oh, no, it is adult. That's like the very last tag on there, but this is a nonfiction. So I'm talking about Thunderstruck. There you go, Thunderstruck. This is by Erik Larson. This is the author that wrote The Devil in the White City. This one was fairly short for an audiobook. I want to say it was like 4 to 5 hours. So Erik Larson wrote it, and I listened to it on audiobook, and the narrator is Tony Goldwyn. Tony's got a pretty good voice. I don't know, there's just something intriguing and in a way kind of soothing with Tony's voice, in my opinion. So Thunderstruck, I've only read one other book by Erik Larson, and it was Devil in the White City, and it's the same type of format. So you're following like this big event that took place in history, but there's also a part in the book where they're following and basically a murderer, and wanting to identify who the murderer is. You know as the narrator, but the people in that person's life don't know they're a murderer. And so you're getting more information for that murderer as well. So I ended up giving this 4 stars. I absolutely loved Devil in the White City. I loved this book. I now want to get all of Erik Larson's books. The thing I like about Erik Larson's nonfiction books, and I don't know if he's written fiction, but it does not feel like it's a textbook. It doesn't feel slow. It doesn't feel dense, like you're trying to slog through information. It feels almost fantastical in a way, that it's almost written like it's a fictional story, but it is very much a nonfiction. So let me tell you about, I've got to pull it back up because I can't remember the murderer's name. But I'm going to start with the basically event that took place in history that kind of changed the world as we know it a little bit. So what has happened is there's this guy who's basically trying to invent wireless communication. It was like the start of people being able to communicate wirelessly with the Morse code system. So he's trying to invent that. There's a couple of people that kind of have the same idea, so it's kind of a battle, but it's mostly one guy that just finally pushes through and gets the thing invented. And this is the thing, like his goal, if it sounds like from the book, one of his goals with inventing this system was so that like a cruise ship or some kind of boat could communicate with another ship or with land and vice versa. So, and as we know, that does happen now. So like one of the things in this is the murder suspect ends up on a boat, and that's how they communicate with, yes, the murder suspect is there, and how far out the police are or something like that. So it ends up being, it sounds like the first murder suspect arrested by wireless communication, in a way, is what it sounds like to me. So, it was just really interesting. They call it Thunderstruck because there's also this part where it's like, there's no communication that goes forth, and since you have the great silence, so there's no one communicating over wireless to honor someone or something, or, you know, to pay homage in a way. And so no one communicates for 5 minutes, 2 minutes, or whatever. The other thing with this communication was developed before the Titanic happened. For whatever reason, the Titanic still hit the iceberg, you know, but they'd also mentioned people that would go out and actually hunt for icebergs and let ships know where they were. So that was another interesting little point as well. And the people that were involved in the wireless communication, they actually wanted to go on the Titanic, but something had happened where it's like the husband got called away to another job, the wife had to take care of a child that got sick, and yet they really wanted to go. And it was kind of eerie to know that they were like on the balcony waving people off, or on a balcony waving people off that were on the Titanic when they were going to go out to sea, and knowing that's going to be the last time a lot of people are going to live. So that was a little weird, but that's the invention that helped shape the world. Like Devil in the White City was about a Ferris wheel, but this one was about the wireless communication. So that was good, and that was interesting. So as far as the murder goes, this is where I need to pull it up, because this is someone I've never heard of. Holly Crippen. And this takes place on 2 different continents. So, Holly Crippen, I'm just going to call him Crippen because they kept calling him Crippen in the book. He lives in the UK, or it says in Edwardian London. Set in Edwardian London. So he has a wife, and it's like just tension builds and builds and builds, and then finally he says his wife went to America, and I think at points he actually goes to America as well. This is definitely something I'm going to want to get a physical copy of the book for, because if I'm only listening to the audiobook, sometimes I have a hard time retaining some of the information. But I do know that there were parts that were referred to on American land. And then, anyway, so Crippen is married, and supposedly his wife goes to America, and then he tells people, because she stops communicating and things like that, he tells people that he found out that she's dead, she got some sort of a disease, and then ended up dying in America. Well, there's this women's guild that his wife was a part of, and they get suspicious because things are not just lining up with what they know of his wife's personality and things that he's saying. Things are just not matching, so they obviously go to the police. The police start to investigate, and by this time, Crippen is remarried, or is in a new relationship. And he disguises his new wife as a boy. They get baggy clothing, they cut her hair and everything, and they go on the ship. And that's to go to America, and that's when the whole wireless communication thing is how they ended up catching them for where they were before they landed in the other country. So anyway, the police are investigating his first wife's disappearance. They're asking a bunch of questions, and then they end up searching the house and going into the basement and finding body parts. And it's like, it does get a little graphic, I would say. So depending on how much you can handle, you may want to avoid this book or not. Just depends on how much graphicness you can handle. Because I will say this right off, so you're not caught right off guard. There's talk of certain body parts because she's murdered, and they have to do scientific tests to determine how she was killed, or how she had died. One of them being, I want to say she was filleted, and they talk about what kind of person it would take to fillet a body. And the other interesting too is, I guess in London, there was this guy that was really good with determining what type of poison killed somebody. One way he did is that they'd have to give something to like a cat, and then depending on how the cat's pupils would react would determine which type of poison or will rule it down. Like for instance, they gave the poison to the cat or something to the cat, however they did from the body, and the cat's pupils reacted, and so it narrowed it down to 5 poisons. But then they did the light test to see if the pupils would dilate or restrict, and they did, and they acted normally, so that ruled out other poisons. And I think cocaine was one that was ruled out, so it was definitely a poison back in this time, and it wasn't the recreational drug that people use today, or addicted drug, whatever is the case. But so they determined what poison it was, and then once they figured it out, they go to try and hunt them down, and they find out that yes, they're on the ship, they're trying, and that's because of this wireless communication. And I guess there are other shipyards or ships and people on ships that are also trying to get this wireless thing to work, but it was the one ship that they were on. I don't remember the name of the ship. I'll have to reread the book, but it was the one ship that Crippen and his wife were on that ended up being the one that is who basically invented and finalized the things that we have today as the wireless communication. It does continue on with like Crippen going on trial, and I think the jurors were only deliberated for 27 minutes, and they came back with a guilty verdict for Crippen. And then his current wife, it couldn't be determined that she knew what he had done to his first wife, so she was basically free to go. And so that was interesting too. And from what it talks about in the book, I mean, I don't know all of the information, but I would probably have been a juror saying there's no way she could have known because of the information that was divulged in the book. So, I mean, that's really all I can tell you. It's definitely, I do recommend this, especially if you want to get into nonfiction reading. Erik Larson is definitely a good way to go because the writing is more of the fantastical side. But this is definitely one, just like with Devil in the White City, I want to get my hands on a physical copy so I can reread it, because Devil in the White City I also listened only on Audible or with audiobook, and I definitely want to reread it with the audiobook so I can catch things that I missed, because I will retain more information as I read along with the audiobook. So I definitely want to get copies of the physical books so they can reread them with the audiobooks and pick up more stuff and retain more information that way. So that's just a very basic review. Again, 4 stars, thoroughly enjoyed it, and this is the second book by Erik Larson that I have read, and I am now a fan of Erik Larson's work, and I have marked all of the books that Erik has written as ones that I want to read. So that's it for this review. Let me know if you've read anything else by Erik Larson. If you read Devil in the White City or this book, Thunderstruck, or any other book by Erik Larson, let me know what your favorite one is of Erik's work so far that you have read. Or if you haven't read them, let me know if you're interested in it and stuff. Just whatever you want to say, comment to me in the comment section. So that's it. Until next time, stay true to yourself and enjoy a good book. And I'll talk to you later.